You're going to love my newest interview with Tonya Kubo in my series on expert tips for success from entrepreneurs who work from home. You know, Tonya's a busy mom entrepreneur who shares some amazing and valuable tips on how she handles her busy life, from struggling with boundaries, the way she set up her workspace to be extremely effective, how she handles interruptions using technology, and pivotal advice on what she does for her self-care. I'm Gail Bates, and I've been an entrepreneur working from home for over 20 years. I am passionate about helping entrepreneurs improve their time management and reduce overwhelm in today's fast-paced business world. That's why I'm doing this series on entrepreneurs who work from home, so that you can learn from others. Now, I specialize in goal setting and productivity systems and keeping you accountable, because I want to make sure that you run a business where you feel less stressed in making money in running a successful business. Now, I'd love you to take a minute to subscribe to the channel, and of course, don't forget to hit the bell so you can be notified when I upload more videos. And let's dive into learning all about the successful ways how Tonya manages her business working from home as an entrepreneur. Tonya, I'm so excited to chat with you today about all of what you do in your business, as well as how you do it working from home as an entrepreneur, because that's what I love to share with people. So I'm going to start off right off the bat with the very first question for you on your daily routine. Kind of walk me through. I know you're a busy mom as well as you have a really big business. So what does your daily routine look like? Walk me through this typical day.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So, of course, like you said, being a mom definitely does dictate the daily routine. So the academic year, which is a majority of the year, has a different routine than, say, summertime. Right. But I'm up at 4. Because what I have discovered is I have to get up before everybody else in the house. Otherwise, my whole day gets eaten up by responding to their needs. Yeah. So I'm up at 4. I usually am at my desk from about 4:30 to 6:30. So that's when I do my focus time, my quiet time. Everybody else starts to get up around 6. We're out of the house by 7, and I don't get back home after kid drop off until 9. So then I have a good chunk of working from 9 to 2. Then I'm back to school pickup, and then I'm back home usually around 4. And then that's where it varies, because sometimes the girls have after school activities, and so I need to take them to those. Other times I can fit in another 2-hour block of work into the evening. And then usually for me, Saturdays are work days, but that's when I work on my own business versus working on other people's business. Because as a service provider, which is something that you know all too well, you're always having to strike a balance between working on your own business and also fulfilling on the contracts you have with clients.
Yes. And how does that work for you? Do you have a special way that they can connect with you, or how does that work for you?
For clients?
Yeah.
Okay, well, if we can come up with the perfect answer to that question, I think you and me are going to make millions, because I think that is the curse of every service provider. And I have done, I've been in business since 2007, but I've been full-time online work from home since 2019.
Yeah.
So, it's changed, but I've tried, I have friends who they just block days. Client A gets Mondays and Wednesdays. Client B gets Tuesdays and Thursdays. Because I work in the online community space, it's not like I can tell anybody, let's just put your membership on a shelf for 3 days a week.
Right.
So I have to be working with most of my clients 3 to 4 days a week. So what I have done, I used to do the big blocks on my calendar, client A from this time to that time. And what I would find is people would encroach on the time. Oh, I see you have an open slot here on your calendar. I'll take it. So now I've gotten really granular on my calendar. So if you looked at my calendar today, what you would see is, 6 a.m. to 7 a.m., I'm checking in on this specific group. 7 a.m. to 8 a.m., for instance, would be email. And I just go through there, and then I let my calendar boss me around.
Yeah. And other people see your calendar too as well. Do you use Calendly or something like that?
So I use Calendly for my clients, so as a service provider, so typically what I do is online community strategy, so memberships, free groups. But there's a handful of clients that I work on a bigger scope with as their chief marketing officer. And so I'm helping to manage their teams. And so it's their assistants who have access to my calendar. And there was one assistant in particular that she would just say, well, I see you have this, but I'm just going to book over it. And I'm like, no, you may not. You may not book over it. So, but what I discovered is if I had it as a work block, her assumption was that was for available time for them, right? Their organization. She never thought, oh, she probably has other clients.
Yeah.
So now by dictating, I do everyday effectiveness here. I do clutter-free academy here. I do, journey homeschool here. Then she's like, oh, that's not our name. Okay, I won't try to book there.
Yeah, good. Excellent. So that's really important because your daily routine has to work for you, right?
Right. And this is something we can talk more about if you want. I think it all comes down to boundaries.
Yes, I so agree with you.
Tell me if you've had this experience, because this is my uneducated, unresearched opinion. I think if you struggle with boundaries in one area of life, you struggle with boundaries in all areas of life.
I think that's probably true. Although sometimes I find there are some things I can certainly say, this is it, that's it, it's over, it ends here. And with others, I think it depends somehow, but you're probably right. It's probably true.
Well, and I think some boundary issues aren't as apparent as others.
Yeah.
If you say, for instance, I don't work Fridays, and somebody says, well, you have to work this Friday, that feels like a violation, right? You're like, but no, I already said I don't work Fridays. How dare you encroach upon my boundary?
Right.
But where I find that boundaries are a little harder to maintain is the little asks here and there.
Right.
Well, so,
yeah, I don't work Fridays, but I don't do coaching calls on Fridays. Mm-hmm. But if somebody's that's the only time, mm-hmm. I'll make an exception. And I think that's what I'm talking about. It's those exceptions that we
It's funny is I have a client and she always says any exception done twice in a row becomes a tradition to the person that you've done it twice in a row with.
I like that. I'll have to write that down.
And I'm like, ooh, I don't like that you said that because I just saw myself in that picture.
Okay. So I love it that you go to your you get up at 4. I get up at 4. I love getting up. I don't actually get up at 4. I do a lot of stuff before I get up, but it's meditating and journaling and things like that. You're actually at your workspace at 4. So tell me a little bit about your workspace, and I call it your sanctuary for success. Okay.
Ooh, I like that.
What are the best tips for you that you can share creating like an effective workspace that really works for you, and how you kind of set up your home office for what I call maximum productivity?
Yeah. So it's funny is, like a lot of people who work from home, right? I know all my shortcomings. So I would be like, well, I'm not actually a good person to ask this about. But I will say that what I've learned, I fell victim to what I feel like is a classic myth that they tell us working moms, which is that when you work from home, you can work anywhere, right? And so you talk to people, they're like, I work from my kitchen table. I work from my couch. I work from my bed. I tried the kitchen table thing. It does not make sense to be working from the center of your home. So for me, my house is really small. I live in a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom house. There are 4 of us humans here and a cat. And so there's no dedicated office like a lot of people have. So I have carved out a corner of my bedroom. So that's where we're at. So we're in my bedroom. But what I did, and I've moved my office space around so many times, but I face the door and I have walled myself in with 2 desks. So I have a desk here, like on this side, and I have a desk in front of me. And then I have a filing cabinet here, which means it's very hard for me to be interrupted. You kind of have to stand over here and wait your turn. Because it's just not easy to go over here with mom.
Right.
And so everybody in my family knows the only person who does not honor this boundary is the cat. He likes to jump on my lap every now and then. And so that's how the workspace is set up. I have to have everything within easy reach of my hands because anytime I get up, as you would know, that's an opportunity for distraction. That's an opportunity to see, oh, the dishes need to be put away. Oh, I should fold this laundry, all of that sort of stuff.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Well, it sounds to me like you've worked it out. I like the two. I actually have two desks too. I like the two desk way we put it together because it does. It kind of puts you in a position where you can focus. That's what I like. I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, I love that you moved on to the distractions because those are like the challenges. What do you think is your biggest challenges you face working from home? How do you overcome them?
Yeah. So I don't like to be the type of person who's like, oh, my kids are a problem. But for me, like I have all the control in the world when it's just me and the cat at home. But when they are home and I'm working, that's tough because they're still young enough. I mean, I have a 14-year-old, she gets it, but my 9-year-old doesn't understand that mom doesn't get summer break, that mom isn't off when she's off, right? Like I'm her own private person. Yeah. So they're my biggest distraction. So some things that I've done is I do keep my door shut when I am working. So they know that. So they tend to walk in a little quietly. I have actually set up my desk. I should have mentioned this before. So I have a laptop that I then project onto a larger monitor. So the monitor faces me, but the laptop screen faces the door. So when they walk in, they can tell I'm in the middle of a call right now. So they'll walk out. Now, if it's really important, and I've been doing this. I mean, Abby is 9 now, but I mean, she was 2 the first time I taught her this, is she waits. And if I hold up a finger, and usually I'll do it off camera so people can't see, she just waits. She doesn't talk. Now that she can write, she'll write me a note, but they know that means mom can't be interrupted right now. And mom will give them attention as soon as she can.
This is wonderful. This is like technology at its best, especially in this day and age with kids, who they don't even think, they just
no
right in, right? They need a question answered or they need mom right away, right?
Right, exactly.
And I love it. You've actually used technology to make that work.
Yes, and it's so helpful. I mean, there was a time when the little one didn't quite understand what was going on the screen. And so it had to be explained. But now everybody knows, they get it, and it just works a lot more seamlessly.
I love it. It's fantastic. My viewers are going to love that tip. It's one of the best I've heard. Okay, so I'm going to switch right over here now.
Yeah.
Back to business. How do you stay connected with your clients, with your team? Do you have any favorite communication tools or strategies that you'd like to share with us?
I could make this an entire episode, but I will not, because I like you and your viewers way too much to geek out on all this. So this is, again, where there's a challenge as a service provider, because usually as a service provider, you have to assimilate into other people's tools and systems. And very frequently, entrepreneurs do not have good systems for communication. So one of the things that I think is very important is you have to designate your communication tools. Like everything has a role and a purpose. So my personal preference is I use a tool called Superhuman for email management, because I'm responsible for 8 different inboxes. So that lets me manage them all with just keystrokes. Like Alt 1 is one email address, Alt 2 is another, and I can process through email really quickly. I like to use Slack for internal communication. So if it's me and the team I'm on, we can have discussions, we can brainstorm, we can make decisions just using Slack. I prefer to keep email for external communication only. So that's me talking to prospective clients. That's me talking to other people's assistants, booking things. So I know that email is only people that aren't on my team. And then we use Asana to manage tasks. And I have a hard boundary. Text and phone calls are only for emergencies. Because again, I've run that situation. I'm sure you've had it too, where somebody will send you an email and then immediately send you a message on a messaging app and then text you and then call you.
Oh my gosh.
It's like, how much time? I used to work for a university. This was very common practice in the university.
Right.
And it's like, do you realize how much time we just wasted? So I'm really specific in the purpose of the communication and what the tool is. I like to use video tools. So I use Loom a lot to replace meetings, but also for training, to do, like to review content if I need to give somebody any feedback. And then even for deeper asynchronous discussion. So for instance, for this show, let's just say you wanted to brainstorm it out. I'd say, well, why don't you send me a video and just kind of tell me what your vision is? And if I have any questions, I'll let you know. And then I might reply back with a video. And then it feels like we're in a meeting. I get to see your expressions. I get to hear your voice, but we didn't have to be online at the same time.
Yeah, I use Marco Polo. Have you ever used Marco Polo?
I have used Marco Polo.
Yeah.
So, and I know like some people use Marco Polo. I have, I'll use Voxer, but only for one-on-one clients. Not everybody gets Voxer access to me. And I don't let anybody like personally access me through Voxer. That's only a work communications tool.
Right.
I've used WhatsApp. Again, right? It's like you could spend all day managing 15 different tools.
Yes.
If you're not really protective about what tool serves what purpose and when.
Exactly. Yeah. So you just choose, it's finding the right tools that really work for you.
I think so. Well, I think it's that. And it's also going, this is how we use it. This is when we use it. And we don't, I always find CEOs are the worst, right? The bosses are the worst at going, oh, well, it's no big deal. And they don't realize that everybody on the team follows their lead.
Yes. Well, with your community, you really have to make sure they understand what each one is for and how to use it. So, educating the teams is important for you. And I think that's important for a lot of people. I mean, you basically do it with your children, this is how you communicate, so it's there. Yeah. I love that. I love all of those tools that you're using, and we'll certainly make sure that we list some of those in the description below.
Oh, definitely. I'll send them all to you.
Okay, great. Okay, I'm switching around here. I want to talk a little bit, and we did touch on it before about time management. Okay, because you've talked a little bit about it, but how do you balance? Because this is what a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with. Okay, is they struggle with that balance with work and family, or work, self care, working on self-care. How do you manage all of that?
So I think the hardest thing is, there's what we want, and then there's what we think we want based on what everybody tells us we should want. And so to me, the first step is you have to get really clear on what you want. For years, I thought I wanted to work very little and have like all this time with my family. Yeah. And then I realized that actually, no, I enjoy working. Working is a form of self-care to me. My husband always says, my wife's idea of unwinding is working. Yeah. It's weird, but that's what she does. So, the thing with work-life balance is a lot of times we convince ourselves, or we're let ourselves be convinced that we want something that we don't really want. Other people just tell us we should want it. Yeah. So for me, what I've recognized is I like focused time with my kids, and I like it to be quality time. So I set aside car time for that. I don't take meetings on the road. That is really important for us. Yeah. I also don't spend like our meal times. I don't have my phone with me. Right. That's important.
Yes, exactly.
Right. The other thing that I've just started doing, I'm embarrassed to say maybe for 6 months, is I don't eat at my desk anymore. I take all of my meals, whether anybody else is home or not, I take all of my meals at the kitchen.
I love that. I started doing that a year ago. Because I found that, actually there was food on the desk, Well,
that's what I was going to say. It's like, and my desk is so much cleaner.
I love that. I think that's so important. I think anybody who, you can't sit here 24/7. You have to move. And I think moving is really important. Exercising and getting up, and that's part of your self-care as well. But I think that's really, really important. So you do that. And what else?
So I don't move enough. Now, what's interesting is I have a lot of friends who have desk treadmills. Which I am not a fan of, because I'm like, all that does is train you that like you never have to leave your desk. Yeah. Like at the very least, I'm lucky. I live by a creek. It's beautiful. So a couple times a week, I'll take one of the girls after school and we'll just take a walk. Yeah. It depends on how hot it is. But, I think going outside and just sitting on your porch and looking at something green does so much for computer fatigue.
Yeah.
Again, it's another uninformed, unresearched opinion, but it works for me. And I think those are things. It's like when you work from home, it's so easy for your workday to bleed into what would typically be an off work day,
right,
or off work time, right?
Yeah.
You've got to build those in.
You love what you do. And that's what's coming through here. You really love what you do. You could do it 24/7, but you really have to set those boundaries, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
So the other thing, how do you connect, how do you get clients? How do you connect with your clients? Do you physically meet with people, or do you get out of your office, or do you do a lot of it online?
So I used to work 100% online. I have one client that I go to her for VIP days twice a year. So I'll stay with her. Well, I'll go to her for a week twice a year. I actually do have 2 private clients that live in my town. Right. And so we'll have a weekly lunch meeting with each of them. Right. So that gets me out of the house. But there were times that I wouldn't leave the house except to take the kids to and from school.
Right.
So that has broken things up a lot. Now, in terms of where I meet clients, I mean, I meet my clients on Facebook. I know everybody says Facebook is dead, but I have a really active Facebook group.
Yes.
And so people are just trained to reach out to me on Facebook Messenger and to find me on Facebook.
Yes. Well, I mean, that's what you do. You help communities, especially with your Facebook group. I think that's one of your fortes.
Thanks.
And what is the top tip for that you'd love to share?
Top tip for connecting online, or
on your Facebook group?
Oh, in my Facebook group. Oh, good golly. Like, join the Facebook group and just dive into the guides. We have so much good training on what I've learned to tell people, because everybody's like, well, all the Facebook groups are the same. Ours really focuses on the soft skills required to like be a good human and to teach other people to be good humans in online communities. Because personally, I am fascinated by how humans choose to interact and behave in online spaces. When they think they're safe, nobody knows where they live, nobody knows who they are. And there's just so much that goes into teaching people how to do that well, how to be as good of a human online as they are in real life, and how to build those really meaningful connections. And so that's what we do in our group.
Yes. I love it. And we will link your group below so that people.
Oh, yay. Thanks.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. So what do you think your most common distractions are that you encounter? I mean, how do you minimize that or even eliminate?
Okay. This is hard, right? Because I work in online communities, so I'm working with free groups, I'm working on paid memberships, and then I do some overall marketing strategy with clients. There's always some level of crisis. Now, not every crisis is big, but if I let myself, I could become a firefighter where I am just trying to tamp down flames from the moment I wake up to the moment I go to bed, and I never have a chance to actually control the burn.
Yeah.
So I do a lot of, like, when I'm working with clients, I try to help them forecast what's going to happen. So you've been in my group, so you know this. So for instance, when we talk about how we set rules in a group, I always talk about there's no point in having rules if you don't have a plan for how you're going to enforce the rules.
Right.
Because if you have rules and then somebody breaks them and you don't know what to do, then you're going to call me and you're like, I don't know what to do. This person broke the rules, and right. And then the expectation is that I'm going to drop everything for you. But if I can talk you through that on the front end, okay, if somebody breaks this rule, how are we going to behave? Okay, great. Write that down. They do this. Okay. Now you have a whole plan A, B, C, D. And you can manage that on your own. You end up feeling so much more confident. And then you just reach back out to me and say, hey, this was the problem. This is how I solved it. What do you think? And then we can talk about that as a debrief.
So you're really educating people is basically what you're doing.
Yes, I am. I am educating people, and I love it. Nobody knows what they don't know.
Yeah, I always say that. You don't know what you don't know. Exactly.
You don't. So you can't adequately ask me questions because you don't even know what you should ask questions about. So it's really on me as the service provider to say, I know that you don't want to think about this, but trust me, this is important.
Yes. Yeah.
So let's have that conversation now. And then you will just feel so much more supported as these things happen.
Yes. Okay. I love it. So any special productivity hacks or techniques that you found useful while working from home?
Yeah, there's a few, I think. So one is, and I can't take credit for this, I found it in a book. I think it's called Bumpers. It's like this little book. It's by Nick Peterson. Yeah, I'll send you the information on it. But one of the things that they talk about is we have this tendency, and this goes with everything. This is work, this is health and fitness, all the things. I want to experience a change, right? So I look at this ideal situation. That's what I'm going to do, right? So I'm going to cut carbs. I'm going to go to the gym 6 days a week. Or, in my case, it might be I'm only going to work from 9 to 2 every day. But the problem is if I'm working from 4 a.m. to 10 p.m., and now I'm going to make myself work from 9 to 2, that is a really big leap.
Yeah.
So rather than doing that, what he suggests, and it's been really effective for me, is do a real life journal, like journal when you're actually working. What are you doing every minute of every day for a week?
Yes.
And then how many hours is that actually each week? So maybe what it is on Monday you work 4 hours, and on Tuesdays you work 6, and on Wednesdays you work 10, and it averages out to a 6.5 hour workday.
Yeah.
So then the next step is just make working no more than 6.5 hours the daily goal.
Right. I love that.
Because you're already averaging that.
Yes.
So the goal is to just shorten the long days and lengthen the short days.
Yeah.
And then you're going to get closer to your goal. And then once you're doing that consistently for a month, then go, okay, do I want to knock it down to 6 hours a day?
Right. I love that.
But it's really about starting where you're at and taking tiny steps toward the ideal, then trying to springboard from where you're at to the ideal overnight.
Right. That's great. I call that a time audit, and
okay.
I actually, it's the same kind of thing. But I love. I haven't heard of that book, and we'll definitely mention that below as well. But I love that. Okay, so work-life balance. We've pretty much covered that, I think. And you've talked about walking. I'm talking about maintaining that healthy work-life, that self-care. Is there anything specifically you do for you, Mama? What is it you do for you? Okay.
So my favorite thing, and so this is my Sundays, I like to read in bed. It's the weirdest thing. Some people read on the couch, some people read, in a chair or whatever. I just like to lay in bed in my PJs and read. And so we've worked it so that, I can do that for a couple of hours on Sundays. My husband usually takes the girls out of the house, so I don't have any interruptions. And it feels like a little thing, but that is really big in terms of just resetting me for the week. And then the other thing is, and this is something that I know a lot of people wake up at 4 a.m., but they're not as protective about their bedtime. Yeah. I am in bed at 8 o'clock every night.
Yes. Well, if you get up at 4 a.m., you have to. That's the norm. You have to get 8 hours sleep a night, right? Yeah.
Well, but I used to actually work until 8 and not go to bed till 11 and still get up at 4 a.m. I used to work for an East Coast company. And so I only slept from like 10 to about 3.
No, yeah.
And everybody says, oh, well, you don't need a lot of sleep. And I believe that too, until I started getting enough sleep and realized, no, I need this. I was just not operating at my best for several years.
That's the words. Enough sleep for you. Everybody thinks, some people think they can get away with 5 hours. Some people need a whole 8 or 9 hours, but you have to think about what is the best sleep for you. Yes. I love that.
And as you would know, it's like quality of sleep is important too.
Yes, it is very important. Sometimes if you wake up in the middle of the night and go back, sometimes I'll wake up in the middle of the night for an hour or two and read and then go back to sleep, but it's interrupted sleep, and it's not, you don't wake up refreshed like you would if you slept for the whole 7 hours, Right. Yeah, exactly. Okay. I'm switching up again here. Professional development. Okay. How do you continue to invest in your professional development and fit it into, you've got an enormous life. Do you do online courses, or do you have any resources you recommend?
Yes. And so I always hesitate to recommend courses, especially courses specifically to people without knowing their goals. Because I think too often what I see is people take a course on somebody else's recommendation without digging into, is that course set up to support your business model, your goals, right? Because courses tend to be a one size fits all framework that they're worked around. And so if your business fits that framework, awesome. If it doesn't, not so awesome. At this stage of my business, and also because I am busy, I tend to focus more on masterminds. So I do some, I have a one-to-one coach, and then I have a couple of masterminds. And masterminds for me, I feel like they need to be very specific. So I have one that's focused entirely on business development. So I am showing up there simply like, okay, where do I want my business to go? How do I get there? I have another one that's just an accountability. It's like every week we meet up briefly. This is what I want to get done this week. On Wednesdays, we check in with each other. What have I gotten done? What needs to happen? Like, what do I need to do differently to make sure that I get everything done by Friday? That's the only purpose of that group. And then the third one is really focused on marketing and sales, but we only meet once a month. So those are my bigger deals. And then I have a few like low ticket memberships for very specific needs, like one for podcasting. I have one for email marketing. And those are ones that I can dip in and out of because, as you know, you don't feel as bad if it's $9, $7 a month. Then, you use it 4 times a year and it still feels like a really, really good deal.
Yes, exactly. Yes. I actually just launched one of those myself. Okay.
Congratulations.
Well, the Accountability Lab. Okay. It's $9 a month.
And it's just accountability, right?
Exactly. That's all it is. Yes, exactly.
Well, and you know this because you're in my group, right? But I do think people are hungry for accountability, and everybody's preferred style is different, right? Yeah. So I love this group that I'm part of where we have 2 check-ins a week.
Yes.
I don't love co-working sessions.
Oh,
That's
really?
just not my thing. Yeah,
I love co-working sessions.
Yeah, I know a lot of people do. So many people I know will join programs because they're like, they co-work. And I'm like, no, I'm good.
Yeah.
I get enough peopling, right? But those check-ins and to have somebody else go, Tonya, you said you were going to do these 5 things.
Yeah.
And I get it. You've done 4, which is awesome. But how are we going to get that 5th one knocked off?
Yeah, that's really good. Yes. But that's also part of my co-working sessions. Do those check-ins as well.
Oh, that's good. That's the other thing that I think you know better than most people, right? Is everybody calls things the same thing, but they don't always mean the same thing.
Yes, absolutely.
So I went to a co-working session once that was seriously, it was just an open Zoom call and nobody talked. And there was just like a running chat of people just chit-chatting or whatever. I've been on co-working sessions that run like Pomodoro style.
Yeah. No.
Right. And then everything in between.
No, our co-working sessions is we actually get to know each other really well.
Oh, nice.
And help each other be accountable. And it's all about that, as well as spending time getting the work done, which assigning the time to actually get the work done to me. Yeah. Okay, my sweet. Thank you so much. Now you're going to share with us why you love being an entrepreneur working from home and where people can connect with you and talk a little bit about the services you offer, and we'll put all your links below as well.
Oh, thank you. Okay. Well, so why I like being an entrepreneur and working from home is freedom and flexibility is really important to me.
Yeah.
And again, we've talked about this. I like working. I'm not somebody who wants to work a 10-hour, 20-hour work week, but I like to decide when I work and when I don't work. That's the piece that's really important to me. And as far as what I do, so my area of focus is online community design and development. I love to help business owners figure out whether a community makes sense with their business model and how to fit a community into their business model so that it actually achieves goals. You can always find me in my private Facebook group. That's where I spend the most time. And we'll put that information here in the show notes. But I always like to say, I'm like fungus. I'm everywhere. So you just search my first name, last name, LinkedIn, Threads, Instagram, Facebook. I am there. You can find me. And I just love to connect with people online. It's one of my favorite things.
Yeah. Great. And we will put a link to your Facebook group below.
Okay.
And is there anything else that you'd like to share as far as people connecting with you?
No, I think the Facebook group's the best. Now, if you're not a Facebook group person, come to my website. There's a contact form and we can connect that way via email. In fact, I think that's the first way that you and me connected, Gail, was via email.
Yes, I think it was too. Yes. I don't know how we did it, but we did it. But I also love your weekly emails.
Oh, thanks.
out. Yes, because that, you're consistent and you always have some great information to share as well. So I love that as well. So people can go to your website and sign up for those as well, right?
Yep. And if you join my Facebook group, you give your email address too, and then that gets you signed up for the weekly emails as well.
Right. Exactly. Love it. Okay, Tonya, thank you so much.
Thank you. This was so much fun.
Wow, so many golden nuggets from Tonya Kubo today. I hope you enjoyed this interview and learned a lot of valuable insights. My favorite was how she uses technology with her kids when they need to speak to her. What was your favorite? Leave a comment below and come back for more interviews coming up in this series on expert tips for success for entrepreneurs who work from home. And I'll see you on the next video.